Hey, welcome to my channel if you're new. Welcome back if you are a subscriber. You know, tonight was one of those nights where I was feeling really tired. I wasn't really going to film because I wasn't wearing makeup. I just didn't feel ready. But then I realized all day I've been researching my most anticipated thrillers and I've been really excited about them. So I thought, you know what? I'm just gonna jump on camera tonight. It's going to be chill and I just wanna share so many good books. At least they look amazing. I am so excited. I actually had such a long list that I'm going to be dividing this up into a few different parts because I had like 30 books on there for the next couple months and I just really want to talk about all of them. So it's going to be a chill video. A few times I'm going to grab my computer just to read the description from Goodreads because some of them just had such good descriptions on there. But I can't wait to let you guys know about these and let me know which one of these sound the most interesting to you and which one you are most anticipating. And if you discovered some new books tonight. So I'm so excited for this video. As you all know, I'm addicted to thrillers and it's my favorite genre, so let's get into it. So the first book I want to talk about is called The Good Sister, and this is actually coming out on April 13th, which is tomorrow on the day you're watching it. So pay attention, folks, because this book looks so good. So the premise of this is it is about two twin sisters. From the outside, these two sisters look like they have it all. Rose is the responsible one, and Fern has always been the quirky one, and Rose has always had this sisterly bond with her sister where she wants to keep her safe. Now, their mother was a sociopath growing up, and actually only Rose realizes this. But Fern did something bad quite a few years ago, and Rose is trying to keep this covered up. And now Fern is going to help her sister have a baby. So this sounds like such a good plot. I'm really excited. The cover looks very good and mysterious. And anytime there's sisters involved in something, I tend to really like it. Karen Slaughter has this in a lot of her novels. And I just really love reading about sisters, and making it twins just makes it even more interesting to me. So I'm really looking forward to this book and I cannot wait to dive into it. The next book I'm going to mention is actually getting released tomorrow as well on April 13th, and it is What You Never Knew by Jessica Hamilton. So right off the bat when I saw this, I knew it was somewhat of an isolated setting thriller, which I absolutely love that trope, as you all probably know already. I talk about it all the time. But this is about a woman named June, and her family owned an island and a cottage on it when she was growing up. Now this island was in an isolated setting. It was obviously an island, but also surrounded by trees and this forest. And this cottage, just honestly by the cover, looks straight up creepy. So I love a creepy cottage moment. And what happens is her father disappeared years ago. Now, when her sister dies in a fatal car accident, she discovers that this island is actually still owned by her family. And so she decides to go back and try to figure out more about her father's disappearance. Now, when she goes back to the island though, she starts learning some sketchy secrets, and people start to convince her that her father actually may have been murdered instead of disappearing. So this sounds like an amazing setup for a thriller. I am all here for this and I cannot wait to read it. All right, so the next book is Girl 11 by Amy Suter Clarke, and this comes out on April 20th. This is about Elle, and she's a host of a podcast where she talks about cases where children have gone missing over the years. Now, these are cold cases, so they're not being currently investigated, but she actually has solved a few cases in her time being a podcaster. So now she actually wants to pursue the case that she still hasn't been able to crack, and that is to pursue the case of the Countdown Killer. She receives a tip and she actually goes to meet up with this person to interview them, but when she arrives, he is actually dead and there's a body there. After this incident, a child is abducted though under the same MO of the killer, so she's confused because she's like, the killer is dead, so what's happening? It must be a copycat killer. So this gives me major Criminal Minds vibes. So if you are a Criminal Minds lover like myself, I would highly recommend checking out this book. It sounds really good. I personally have not finished all the seasons of Criminal Minds, but I will, and it just sounds like a blast, this book. Such fun. The next book is Mirrorland by Caroline Johnstone, and this one comes out on April 20th. Now, throughout the video, I may get authors' names wrong. I apologize. I may even omit some that I know I won't be able to pronounce. But bear with me. This is actually another book about twin sisters, which I was excited to find. And the plot of this is Kat and Elle are estranged sisters. And when they were little, they lived in this gothic house, and under the staircase, they created this little magical land called Mirrorland. And it had fairies, it had princesses, and it was just a fun old time. Elle now lives there though with her husband in that old gothic house, and she actually gets in a boat accident and never returns. Now, Kat is returned to kind of investigate what's going on and returned to her childhood home. And this is another one of my favorite tropes in thrillers where the character has to go back to their childhood house or childhood town and try to uncover secrets and solve a case. I love this trope in books. So I am so excited. It sounds so good. And as soon as an author throws in the word gothic, I am set. I love a creepy house. So let's move on to the books that I'm most excited about coming out in May. And the first one is Arsenic and Adobo by Mia P. Manansala. This comes out on May 4th and will actually be the first book in a series that is starting. And this is about a woman named Lila, and she goes to her hometown to recover from this awful breakup. And she starts working for her aunt's restaurant that's actually failing. And one day, her ex, who is actually a notorious food critic, comes in, and after their encounter though, he drops dead. And she is the suspect for this case. However, she did not commit this crime. So she has to go on a mission to figure out who actually committed the crime and what actually happened. This sounds really fun. I absolutely adore the cover of this. It's so colorful and cute, and I can't wait to read this. I actually ordered it for my book of the month pick for this month. The next book is Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. This comes out on May 18th. And this is actually about a few women going missing within blocks of each other. So it looks like they may be connected. And this strikes fear in the community because it's a community that usually feels safe. So obviously this makes the community uncomfortable and fearful. The cases are not solved though, and they go cold, and 11 years later, one of the victims returns and everyone wants to know what happened. But the victim is trying to keep what happened buried, and the secret's buried with it. The victim comes back and no one is prepared for what they find out. So this is a very intriguing synopsis of the book. I can't wait to read this. It just immediately gripped me. I also love the trope of someone being abducted and then coming back, and you're trying to figure out what exactly happened to them, whether it's they can't remember or somebody slowly finding out what happened to them and it's slowly being revealed. I just think that's a wonderful way for novels to hold tension and have the stakes be really high. So I'm really excited for this book. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to read it. And I can't wait to read all of these books. Okay, the next book is The Photographer, and this is by Mary Dixie Carter. This is coming out on May 25th, and I'm actually going to grab my laptop because I looked it up on Goodreads and it had a few statements in caps, and I want to read them to you in a sentence. So it says, "When perfect images are made of beautiful lies, the truth will be exposed." And basically, this is a very vague description I'm giving you, but I wanted this to be a vague description. And some of the ones later on will be vague like this as well. Because sometimes I feel like if you know too much about thrillers, it can ruin some of the suspense. And so I started, as I was researching these books, not reading the full descriptions or skimming over them because I really didn't want anything ruined for me. And I really like going to books blind. So as soon as I heard this was about photography and someone taking photographs, I was just gripped. It also says, Mary Dixie Carter's The Photographer is a slyly observed, suspenseful story of envy and obsession, told in the mesmerizing, irresistible voice of a character who will make you doubt that seeing is ever believing. So this sounds like an unreliable narrator situation, which, if it is done well, can be an amazing trope. So I'm very excited. Let's move on to June. So The Other Black Girl is the first book I want to talk about, and this is coming out actually the first of the month. And this is by Zakiya Dalila Harris. This is about a woman named Nella who is really tired of being the only black woman at her publishing company, Wagner Books. Now, another black woman actually joins the office, and she's really excited about this, and they start talking, but as soon as this other woman shows up, she starts getting really threatening notes on her desk. saying stuff like, you have to leave, you must leave. So that's all I know about it. It sounds really tense. I love when characters get messages or warnings in text messages or notes. So this sounds really good, and I'm really excited to read this book. Another book that's coming out on the 1st is called Dead Dead Girls, and this is by Nekesa Afia. So the cover, oh my gosh, you have to see the cover of this book. I immediately was drawn to this book by the cover, and I'm just going to, per usual, just put it up here, admire it. And this is actually the first book in a series that's starting up. And I just wanted to read the description from Goodreads because I thought it was very thorough and really well written. It says, Harlem, 1926. Young black girls like Louise Lloyd are ending up dead. Following a heroin kidnapping ordeal when she was in her teens, Louise is doing everything she can to maintain a normal life. She's succeeding to. She spends her days working at Maggie Cafe and her night at the Zodiac, Manhattan's hottest speakeasy. Louise's friends might say she's running from her past and the notoriety that still stalks her, but don't tell her that. When a girl turns up dead in front of the cafe, Louise is forced to confront something she's been trying to ignore. Several local black girls have been murdered over the past few weeks. After an altercation with a local police officer gets her arrested, Louise is given an ultimatum. She can either help solve the case or let a judge make an example of her. Louise has no choice but to take the case and soon find herself toe-to-toe with a murderous mastermind. She'll have to tackle her own fears and the prejudices of New York City society if she wants to catch a killer and save her own life in the process. So this sounds really good. So just know you're signing yourself up for a series. Another book that I've been highly anticipating is Ace of Spades, and that is also coming out on June 1st. This is actually a YA thriller and the only YA thriller that has made it onto this list thus far. This is a Gossip Girl, kind of Pretty Little Liars feel of a novel, and I've heard from a few of my friends that they're really enjoying it who received ARCs for this novel. And this is basically about two students who are going to this prestigious academy, and they seem to have perfect lives, but they start to receive threatening text messages, and this anonymous texter seems to want to make their dark secrets become public. So that's all I need to know. Sign me up. Sounds super good, and I can't wait to read this book. A Dark and Secret Place by Jen Williams is the next book I would like to talk about, and this will be coming out on June 8th, which is actually my birthday. And I'm so excited because this novel sounds amazing, and it's awesome that it's coming out on my birthday. When I saw that, I was really excited because this is one of my most anticipated books actually even on this list. So I can't wait to tell you what it's about. This says for readers of Rachel Caine, which love the Stillhouse Lake series, so as soon as I saw that, I knew I had to read it. It says, this is a chilling thriller from award-winning author Jen Williams about a woman who discovers her late mother had been secretly corresponding with a serial killer for decades. So that gripped me. Don't need to know anymore. Heard Stillhouse Lake, heard serial killer, I'm in. All right, this next book sounds wild, and it is called The Family Tree. This is by two authors actually, Steph Mullin and Nicole Mabry, and this is coming out June 10th. She actually takes an ancestry DNA test and finds out that she is not only adopted, but related to a serial killer. That is insane. I can't imagine that happening. As soon as I heard the premise of this book, it made me really scared to ever take a DNA test. But anyway, shall we proceed? This tri-state killer has been abducting pairs of women for over 40 years, and she actually tries to save the two newest victims. So this sounds amazing. I'm so excited to read this book, and I wish June 10th would come sooner. June 8th and June 10th, I'm so pumped. So on June 15th, The Maidens comes out, and this is actually by Michaelides, and that is the author who wrote The Silent Patient, which I recently read and really enjoyed. And also I heard Gabby over at Gabby Reads talk about The Maidens and said it was really, really fun to read. This is about a woman named Mariana. She's actually a group therapist. She is actually convinced that the beloved Greek tragedy professor at Cambridge is a murderer, and this professor is loved especially by a secret society of women called the Maidens. She suspects the professor when another body turns up, and she starts becoming obsessed with catching him and proving his guilt. This sounds amazing. I love the fact that it involves a university and I just can't wait. I think the setting's going to be amazing. And if it's anything like The Silent Patient, I'm sure I'm really going to enjoy the writing style and the experience. Okay, we've made it to the last book on this list, and it is What's Done in Darkness. This is coming out June 22nd. This is about Sarah Beth, and she was a rebellious teen when her family moved to a remote farmhouse and they made her grow her hair super long, wear super long dresses, were extraordinarily strict, and she had to follow so many rules. But one day she was abducted in a cornfield and a week later was found bloody by the side of the highway. Now she's taken back by her family, but they treat her horribly. 5 years later, she is trying to keep her past buried, but an investigator calls and is convinced that it is connected with a recent case and the disappearance of a new girl. He asks for her help, and this just sounds really good. I'm really looking forward to reading it. All right, that is my list. I am so excited for these anticipated thrillers. I have so many more that I couldn't fit in this video because it was going to be like 2 hours long. So stay tuned for my next installment. I will be making these a regular occurrence on my channel of anticipated thriller releases, and I'm so pumped. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye.